You're in charge.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Magical Human Show with myself, Claire Ottewell, the Oily Witch, and
June Tranmer, um, person of interest. I don't
absolutely June. That is June owning herself there, which is very impressive.
Well,
So,
I've just posted a comment on a thing calling for revolution. So who knows? That's why I said that. I'm waiting for the knock on the door now.
oh, it's so, yeah, I agree with you though on the need for revolution because this
Yeah.
system does not, who is this system really serving? I had a a eureka moment yesterday when I was speaking to my coach and he was saying, "Oh, he's Canadian." And he was going, "Oh, I think I'm on the spectrum." And I was just like, I suddenly was like, "Hang on a minute. Everybody is being given these labels because they don't fit in with the structures that we are being governed by. So governance is not changing. It's easier for governance to turn around and point at us and give us a label and say, well, you've got autism, you've got this, you've got that, because you can't comply. And
You're
I'm
not
just like,
coping well with the way society is.
that's
Well, who
right.
wants to cope with that? I ask you.
But people aren't asking, are they? They're looking for these labels all over the place. Like I see
Mhm.
loads of clients, they come to me, they're like, oh, I'm in the middle of getting an ADHD or an autism diagnosis. I'm
Oh,
like,
I tell you.
can I just read your chart? And then I'm like, read their chart. And I'm like, you've got, 10 houses in fire. You've got, 9 houses in air. It's like, I mean, planets even. I'm like,
Even.
you were born this way. There's nothing you've done. It's the fact that you happen to be a really agile, quick moving person who doesn't have a lot of patience. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is who you are. But it's this conformity, this top down driving, like saying, just because you can't do it the way we want you to do it, you are wrong. And
And you're
I'm
not
like,
normal. And
yeah,
you're not
you're not
normal,
normal.
right? Mm,
But who is normal? And the normal
no.
people are just the people who are really good at complying, perhaps. And it's like, whoa, what cost are they paying for their compliance? What
Yeah,
their souls?
they can't be happy people, really. I feel that, every time somebody says to me, I believe I'm on the spectrum, and I'm going, who isn't anymore?
Exactly.
Who is
Exactly.
not on the spectrum anymore?
And if you're not on
Every
the
other person I talk to now believes that they, even if they aren't even going for a diagnosis, and it's almost like the latest bandwagon, I'll say it. It is almost like, well, I'm going to join that gang because they're the cool people. Because they are the cool people, frankly. They are.
but they're
Neurodiverse
us.
people are incredible.
But they're us.
Hmm.
They
We're
are
all
an
it.
example of the fact that society, the structures, the governance structures no longer work for the
Mm,
people that are being born.
mm.
So that's why they can't comply. And
Well, plus we're all also damaged by
what
the
we have been
toxins
putting
that
up
we've
with.
had to absorb and take in. And so our brains don't work like would have done back in my parents' day. They were ultimately compliant, but that was partly because they were governed by fear. And I feel like the fear is there now, but people are so rattled by it that they can't comply because they don't know what to do because they're minute one minute they're told do this, next minute they're told do
They're
that.
overwhelmed.
And it's, yeah,
It's
exactly.
overwhelmed. But if we go one step higher, then Spirit always knew that we would have this plastic fantastic period of history where people would be 90% plastic and 10% flesh. And we that the brain evolution would have to
These are
cope.
not accurate statistics, by the way. We're just throwing them out there.
No, I'm
But we
Barbie.
are, we
You
are. I'm
Barbie.
your Barbie. I love it. Yeah. Well, we are. We're a huge amount of plastic and aluminium and
Oh my God.
mercury and,
All the deodorants and people are spraying it straight into their lymph nodes. It's like, whoa,
uh-huh.
do you know what you're doing? So I think
Mhm.
that even though it can feel overwhelming at times because it is so challenging, this is all part of a bigger plan, is my
Yes.
feeling on this.
Yes.
Intuition is, and even though we have children literally fabricated out of, Kentucky Fried Chicken and McDonald's, somebody something was aware that this was going to happen and would find a way to continue the human experiment. That's how
Spirit will survive.
we are eternal beings.
Yeah.
We're borrowing these flesh suits so we can feel like what it feels like to be material.
Mm, mm.
And some of us are loving being material and some of us less so. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Some
hard.
people are saying to me right now that they're not feeling like themselves. And I
Uh,
think that's got quite a bit to do with this Mars-Pluto thing that's going on. I'm not sure, but a lot of people are really exhausted right now, me included. And it's just like yesterday was so heavy. It just felt like heavy. Oh, mm,
So Mars, I heard this yesterday because I'm working so hard at the moment. I'm not even getting the chance to do kind of, I am doing astrology because I'm writing it up for my circles, but beyond that, I'm not really,
mm,
looking into it. And one of my clients said yesterday, "Oh, this is what's going on. I'm just going to look at it, charts and trans."
yeah,
Like, because Mars is at 3 degrees of Leo, and
yes,
you're saying, well, I know that Pluto is at 3 degrees of Aquarius. I know this anyway. So hang on, let me just have a look.
yes. And
Uh,
it's that that's kind of making people feel a bit heavy, I think. I
well,
think I
there's
was listening to
also,
Steve Judd. He's another of my favorite people.
well, it's Steve Judd that this person heard this from.
Ah,
So there we have it, right? I can see the opposition, right?
mm,
And so, yeah, and that makes sense because Mars is the planet of fast moving and fire, energy, masculinity.
mm,
Pluto is also masculine, but Pluto is transformation and death, shadow. So you've got, and Mars is all about the light. It's about moving forward, staying in the light. So you've got shadow and light kind of battling it out. And then how did I put it the other day? It's like heart over, because Leo heart, so there's energy in heart, like the heart over the mind, because Pluto's in Aquarius. So the shadow and transformation is over our community, over our thinking, over our friendships, all of that, hopes and beliefs. That's Aquarius. And then you've got, yeah, Mars in Leo, which is all about kind of, energy and creation, creativity, heart. Yeah, so it's a challenging time. It's interesting because that is an opposition. But what was I saying the other day? Oh, yeah, okay. So there is a big opposition. Right, okay. Never
well,
mind what I was saying the other day. But the tension in the air is very, very heavy and
palpable. You
erupting.
go out right now. I just been hanging my laundry out like you, and it's just like so still. And sometimes there's this wild wind, and then it's really still again. And sometimes the skies are beautifully clear, and then suddenly there's all those streaks, and then it's gone all gray again. It's just so bizarre. I feel like I'm just watching, and I think that's what people are saying when they feel like they're not themselves. They feel like there's this transition thing that we're going through, this becoming our new selves in a way. But just can I just tell you something? I just noticed every time I look at my blooming chart, I see something else. My Pluto is in Leo. My Mars is in Aquarius.
No way.
What the hell?
You're back to front.
I've always been an awkward bugger. Isn't that bizarre? You
So
see,
you're
my Mars is right on my ascendant, right on it.
on
And,
a, you said your Mars is in Aquarius, right?
yes, yes.
So
And
your
my Pluto is in it's towards the end of Leo. It's not at the beginning, but still and all, that is quite interesting.
shadow and transformation through love. And yeah, you put energy into groups and community, which you do
I
precisely
clearly
that.
do. And
And
three
that,
members of my close family are Leos as well.
so and
Son, his partner, and my daughter's husband. Mm.
so those basically are there for your growth and your
Yeah.
transformation and to trigger you. Christmas is comfortable. Um,
Yes. Yeah, well, actually, it's lovely and fun, but the Maldives lot, we never see them at Christmas, but sometimes I spend Christmas with the Leos and the Sagittarius granddaughter, who is just bizarre and wild and lovely. But I see I've got Sagittarius on my midheaven, which is
yeah.
why people sometimes think I'm Sagittarius. I didn't realize that until I listened to Steve Judd this morning.
Oh, okay. Yes, Steve
Yeah.
Jobs is a very well regarded astrologer.
Interesting guy.
I think
Interesting guy.
you take
Yeah.
one thing from the Magical Human Show today, it's to spend more time looking at the sky and noticing the
Please.
weather. When you start to feel that you are drained of energy and feeling kind of, undescribably perhaps having a headache that seems to have emerged from nowhere, then just pay attention to the weather. Although, having said that, being the British Isles, we have five different seas that meet around us and five different air fronts. So we have the most changeable weather in the world. So, yeah,
Yep.
factor that into consideration as well. But yes, it's a very, and we're in Taurus season as well. So we're in a very kind of season, and we've got Uranus facing off in Taurus. So you've kind of got this kind of trying to break down the patriarchy and the patriarchy doing everything it can to remain stable and untouchable, which is
Mm.
also handing out labels and categorizing people. Yeah,
There
this
is a petition against the recently announced we are going to start modifying the weather. Going to, my arse. Yeah, they just it's been in all the main press. All the main press this week.
they're going to start modifying the weather.
Yeah, yeah, dimming the sun is what they're going to try and do. Yeah, especially over the UK. They've given permission now to do this. There is a petition. I was going to try and find it because it was on
Please
a
send it.
chat
I
somewhere. I
will
will send
try
it to
and
you. Yeah.
circulate because that is absolute the dimming the sun in the UK. Are they trying to turn us into bog monsters? I mean, for
Yes.
God's sake, it's like,
Mhm.
or maybe they're trying to make England less desirable to live on, but then who's going to fill up all those developments that you keep building? It's like,
Yeah, I keep seeing lots and lots of student flats, and yet the student numbers are dropping
it's so
in this
bizarre.
city. It's absolutely mad. Yeah.
And it's got to stop. When are people going to start thinking this is not okay? This is really not
Or
okay.
something's weird. I mean, just even that far.
Yeah,
Before they get to the not okay thing, they have to go, oh, something's weird. I don't know why. What is it? And then they go, oh no, I'll just do some escapism because, we all do that. Um, I can't help it. I have to watch my Korean dramas.
I
I'm
know, I was about to say, we all
sorry.
know what yours is.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, I think the North Node. Just can we just go over that again?
The North
The
Node,
North Node versus the South Node.
the North Node is basically the collective, you talking about basically the collective one, which is in Pisces at the moment.
Yes.
And it has been conjunct Venus and it has been conjunct Saturn in Pisces. And so this whole kind of, and it's retrograde, the North Node.
Yes.
In fact, let me just check if it's still retrograde because and just for the sake of clarity, I am now referring to my ephemeris, which you can go and buy, which is Raphael's ephemeris. So I'm not going to put a link because you should be able to look that up because we live in a modern day world.
Yes.
And I like to keep you on the internet as much as possible because it's really good for you. Um, right, it's Friday the 25th. So the node is at 25 degrees of Pisces. And so it's still spinning backwards. And is it spinning backwards? It must do if it's gone from 26 to 25, Claire. What is going on? Where is Saturn? Saturn, where are you? So Saturn is at 27, so they are conjunct. And Venus is now at 27, so they are conjunct. And Neptune is now in Aries, so I don't need to worry about Neptune. Jupiter is still in Gemini. Okay. Yeah. So you've got a conjunction there with the North Node and Saturn. So this is really, again, this invitation to make structure your dreams, make something of your dreams, materialize what your heart is desiring and the spiritual aspect to that, because we know we're in warrior time, but not warrior in the traditional sense of a Gurkha, more warrior or Genghis Khan like warrior. We're more in the sense of warrior, measured, in control of self as much as is you want to be. You don't want to be in too in control because you want to lead with emotions, lead with the heart. And I think I wrote a post. I know I wrote a post this week about that, about water and how we are getting into an arena, a time where it's actually a superpower to admit you're emotional. And you should never have to apologize to be over emotional because it is a superpower and highly sensitive. And it means you're just totally clean, really. If you are, the more sensitive you are, the cleaner you are in some respects. So it means you haven't been bogged down by all your conditioning.
Mm,
So don't continue to dull that with medication because that is what they would like you to do because they would like you to comply. I
mm.
forgot this whole thing is about compliance. You've just sent a whole thing out there saying, this is not okay. Come on here. And I'm banging on about the same thing. So we're aligned, June, as we always are.
Oh, as always, I think we need the warrior in us needs to step up and refuse to comply. And that's where it comes. We can't physically fight, although, some people might want to go and sabotage the planes that are going.
Oh my God, the
God
moon.
knows where they are. Who knows where they are? I mean,
Find them. The moon is in Aries today. So that also might be bringing that up within us, which is also who else is in Aries? Neptune's in Aries, so they're conjunct. So this kind of confusion and energy around kind of well, materialized spirit is around today. Let's put it that way. Let's forget the confusion. Neptune's often blamed as the planet of confusion. I'm not sure if that's a modern interpretation because Neptune is the
mm,
leader of Pisces and they tend to be very psychic and very emotional and very aware. It's water. Water is a carrier, it's a healer, it's a soother. So confusion always feels like when I'm reading that on something, I think it feels a bit of an insult. I mean, everything's got its dark side, don't get me wrong.
of course it does. And there's the two fish going that way. So sometimes they are a bit
Opposed.
not sure,
Not
shall
sure
we
which
say.
direction they're going in, but it's dreams. It's more dreaminess than confusion.
Yeah.
It might be denial, self-denial for the seeking of perfection, which Pisces looks for the dreamy romantic perfection.
Hmm. That's my daughter, all right. What about Erisina? Because as Heather Ensworth was talking about Erisina, or Pam talks about Eris, the isn't she somewhere to do with things happening this week?
I don't
It's
know.
not in the ephemeris.
Not in
No,
my ephemeris, no.
no,
My
that's got just the main ones. She's one of the dwarf planets, isn't she?
hang on, they might be, no.
She's the sister of Mars anyway, and she is a bit of a warrior, and I have her in my Aries, in my second house.
You are a bit of a warrior. I think
I
we
I I think I am.
realized that, and you basically, yeah, you, yeah, no. You need to be happy owning that,
Hmm.
as I know you are.
Well, a little bit more publicly now.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I'm the same. Like, I didn't want to be out in difficult times because I was already getting blasted for being even having things on the internet, etc., just telling people
I
how to get
know,
well
right?
naturally. But and that spooked me quite a lot. So that stopped me being so expressive about my points of view. But I'm also one, and I think you are too, of not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, about
Yeah.
being realistic about what is possible and what is not possible. And we still have a system. So you have to continue to work within that system to
Mm,
some degree. It's the
yeah.
degree that you choose that doesn't risk you because the system is looking for people to cancel.
Hmm.
So
Or lockup or whatever.
yeah, and they
Rainer
don't.
Filmic in Germany has just been found guilty of spurious allegations and locked up for a further 3 years. He was very outspoken at the beginning of the shit show, and he's been put in jail for it. So yeah, yeah, it's not great. It's not great, but yeah, I mean, I think my thing is I've got to talk to people on an individual basis. I don't want a huge platform and I don't want to be shouting
No,
on social media about we should do this and we should do
no,
that.
well, you
I do
can't.
little comments to people because I feel like that's kind of a more personal
Well, it's also
approach.
you're working out what they themselves can actually do and is achievable for them, as opposed to like everything. This uniform kind of approach to everything, which you and I fundamentally disagree with. People are individuals, so it's like
Exactly right.
or tailor the advice to that individual. Yeah, I
Exactly
agree with you
right.
there, June, 100%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm still talking to people who don't understand why they went and took the medication four
Yeah,
years
well, I've
ago.
got people
They
that
still don't, they're going, I don't know why I did
no,
it.
and people I have people that don't even question that. So, and it's fine,
Mm,
it is, and there were so many placebos in all of it because there had
yes,
to be. So, the
because it
government
was a massive experiment. Yeah.
yes,
Mm,
performing this experiment. So it's, and then again, go higher, spirit. No,
yes,
the person's spirit knows what they're doing here, what they've
yes,
done, what they're going to go through. All of it
yes.
is, almost, in fact, not worth worrying about, even though we do.
No, really worry is not helpful. It
No.
exists for a reason, but I'm not entirely sure why worry exists because it invariably causes trouble for the people we worry about, and for ourselves. So I think you're right. The spirit of the person probably guided them to do this so they could be part of that cohort that knows what it was to experience it.
And thinking about what you just asked about worry, I think worry has to exist because we're in a duality, but also worry is like a boundary and we are material. So, yes, we're divine form and material beings. So maybe
Mm.
worry is a kind of, an etheric boundary because it stops people
Oh,
doing things that they, taking unnecessary risks. It also keeps us quite small. It's quite but there's a preservation aspect to worry as well, isn't there? It's about,
right.
like the back reptilian brain going, no, I want to stay alive. I don't
Pulls you back in. I do want to stay alive for a while longer. I've still got things to do, mate. Yes.
well, you speak to, so you're a male, are you up there? Because it's going to be you that's calling you back. That's the other thing. It's like
Yes.
we are calling ourselves back. It's not, we can't outsource responsibility to a higher thing because we are that thing. That's what I spent a lot of my time reintroducing people to their higher selves and going, actually, that is
Yes.
your God or goddess. That is you. And that'll
Yes.
be the string that you go back along, in the dark, like spiders.
Like
And
spiders. I love it. I've always loved that incy wincy spider thing. My friend Trudy has been doing the Akashic records for me and my daughter, and particularly regarding the cat saga. But I asked her, was there some connection for me with Korea in a past life? And she has never, ever watched a Korean drama in her life. And she got pictures that are straight out of what I have seen in the dramas of the historical things.
I've just got truth bumps.
Yeah, I was thousands of years ago, I was a shaman in the mountains
Oh,
in a
you,
village.
oh, come on, give yourself something more glamorous than that. You were probably one of the royalty living in one of those palaces you keep dreaming about.
Uh-uh. I was in the village with my people, helping my people. Yeah, I was a
Maybe both. Maybe
Yeah,
both.
well, she did see a wealthy house as well. I mean, I think I was a scholar. I think I was a down with the people kind of person, but a scholar as well. And she saw a building, beautiful paintings. So I showed her some pictures. She saw the guys with the little pointed hats, and I went, "There you go. That's yeah." She couldn't figure out what it was that she was seeing, but I told her, yeah.
But a scholar and a wise shaman person would have had money and power because in those cultures, in those times, they would have been respected because
Yeah.
they would have been not like we treat people now like
Well,
that.
there were shamans that were taken into the palaces by the royal family
Look after
to give
them.
them guidance and
Yeah.
whatnot, but they often bore the brunt if
Yeah,
something
if
went
they got it
wrong.
wrong, of course, absolutely. It's like all that auspices thing.
Yeah.
Tell me, is this a good time to go to war? Tell me, should so
Yeah.
and so marry this? How many children will I have?
Oh, it didn't work out off with your head.
Well, that's it. And I know as an astrologer that I literally almost refuse to do predictive astrology. I will
Yeah.
like I've got somebody who's asked me about something like an operation they're having in a while, and they want to know if it's going to be successful or not. And the auspices are really good. and that's in the next 3 months, so that's fine. So I'm happy with that. I can say, look, it all is lined up and it looks like a good thing, but I can't guarantee it because
No.
anything can happen.
Yeah.
And it's all about the ripples in the pond. There's those, what is it, 7 billion people having like lives on this planet. It's like you
Yeah.
think, and we're all connected. It's like somebody drops another pebble. It's like it's coming for you, baby.
Well, and the karma of the people who are in that surgical room in the surgical theater,
Yeah.
what's their destiny in that? It's not just them. But there was a thing somebody was talking about. It might have been Nancy, Rebecca, about us doing the healing for ourselves in this lifetime and how it stretches back 7 generations
Is that
and
all?
forward seven
Oh, you mean
generations.
the healing's got to go back
We're doing it for our ancestors and
then?
for our descendants. So my thought went immediately to these past lives, and I'm thinking, well, if the past lives are not linear,
They're not.
as apparently they are not, that's taking some getting my head round. Um, so then I'm healing for all of those generations before in all of my lifetimes and all of the descendants in all of those lifetimes. So that's millions of people.
I agree with that. I'd also say the caveat, like someone wrote on one of our magical human things, something about the moon being male and the sun being female and all this kind of stuff. And
Oh,
and that is somebody, that's their viewpoint. And I wrote back and I said, that's great. We all make our own reality. And they came back and said, no, we don't. And I was just like, that's okay. We're not going to have this discussion
oh,
because
they were saying this was a fact. This was like,
yeah, this is
did
this is
they have any evidence for this? Why? What?
well, yeah, my view on it is I don't really care because it's like we all believe what we need to believe. So
Hmm.
my biggest caveat with anybody is if the ultimate in person's like the person's ultimate guide is themselves. And so if somebody says to you, Nancy Rebecca, says, oh, it goes back 7 generations and it's forward four, and you don't resonate with that, for you, it might be back 30 generations and they might all run in a line and it might be 4 3. It just doesn't
Wow. Yeah, right.
go with what you want. These people are intuiting stuff and they're useful because what they do is they plant a seed which opens a possibility.
Hmm.
What they're saying may not be factually correct because it might not be 7 generations for everybody.
Well, absolutely. I hear that, and I'm never been one for numbers. I always lose them. I can't recall them properly. I only remember that because I wrote it down. I thought, well, that's fascinating. But that it's the hugeness of it that
Yeah.
impressed me. That how, like you said, a stone thrown into a pond creates ripples, and it goes backwards in time and forwards in time and all the way around in time in the pond of time. So I
Yeah.
found that totally fascinating. But then I began to think, I don't have any descendants beyond my daughter. That made me very sad because, the whole mother, daughter, grandmother, eggs in the womb lineage, that's going to just stop with her in
Well,
this lifetime, in this lifetime.
yeah, but your son's had a daughter.
Yeah, but not from, yeah. But you see, the daughter is the one who carries the eggs from the grandmother and you know what I mean? It's like the whole womb within a womb thing.
I hear you, but things have a funny way of working out. And also,
Mm.
I hear you, but also maybe your bloodline, maybe it's done. You know,
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
and I get it that you're sad about it, and I don't know how I'll feel when that happens to me because I'll probably feel sad. But we
Mm.
are eternal, so maybe your bloodline's done enough healing for the world, and it's just like, hey,
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah,
we
yeah.
we can go back up now.
Yeah, she's gonna do whatever, and her lifetime this time is not having children. She's been adamant about that for a while. So, yeah, I mean it's like the ending of breastfeeding. This is your last child and you're never gonna do that again. It's like that. You have to honor that. And I think that is a big message for right now is honoring our feelings and just going through them, however difficult they might be. If
Yes.
we're mad, we're mad. We don't have to go necessarily pick up our sword and go chop somebody into pieces like we might have done in the past, but we need to express it somehow. If it's poetry, art, you know, talking it through with somebody, all those ways we can deal with our feelings, but squashing them down is no longer a very good idea. Never was really, was it?
No, but it was done because they recognize and know the power in feelings, the power in water. So, let's corral it and pretty much dry it up. And then these people are easier to control. Plug them back into their hearts, and suddenly they want to do their own thing. They've got their own minds. How are we supposed to control all
Outrageous.
these people doing their own things, following their heart's desires? We can't trust them. We need to do health and safety. It's like, get it. You don't need health and safety
Totally dangerous.
with common sense. I've got a reptilian brain that wants to stay alive. Let me work it out. It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's this energy harvesting that goes on, that's been going on for,
Mm,
since the Catholic Church really in our culture, in the Western culture, came into being. And
yeah,
it's happened in the Middle East as well with the Islamic culture as well. And these patriarchal religions are just literally vacuums of energy, vacuums for energy, soul retrieval, soul suction services, getting people to worship false prophets. It's sick. It is sick.
mm,
You think about the Pope, right? He's just passed away.
yeah. Oh, Steve Judd had a lot to say about that.
This is my view on the Pope passing
Mm,
away, was the fact that, and he's been buried in a church I've been to, so I'm quite upset about that. But he's passed away. Now think of all the millions of people that it would have sent him energy to last that long and then being depressed and devastated by his passing. It's like you could just see it if you had an energetic map of the world. It would look like a kind of cyclone of kind of emotion going over the top of Rome and kind of, and people feeling really drained because the Pope was dead. There's all this lost hope, all this kind of, la la la. It's crazy. Whereas and so why does one man generate that level of, energy? He's been feeding off it. This is what they do. It's like,
yeah, there's that. But Steve Judd looked into his birth chart
mm.
and the arc of his life and the ending of his life, and it was all totally appropriate that he died on Easter Sunday, according to Steve. And it was very interesting how he came
Die then.
into this lifetime that his soul knew he was
Of course.
going to be someone.
Yes, he chose to be the Pope because
Mm,
everybody chooses, who's signing up for whichever role, and that's
mm.
why ultimately hating the individual is a bit futile because they've just
Yes,
got a job to do,
totally,
purpose
exactly right.
to show us something as a collective.
Yes.
And so the fact that he died on a fake meaning day created by the Christian church is really rather apt for a fake religion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Say it as it is, Claire. Absolutely. Well, it's kind of like what he was saying was it was like the Queen died a good death. Our Queen, Liz. Um, and he also died a good death, having completed what they came here to do, which is kind of like we're coming up to the in York anyway, the Dead Good Festival, and it's a festival to talk about death and dying. And it's interesting that it's in the middle of May, in the middle of Taurus season.
Beltane and life and fertility. It's like,
I
you couldn't
know,
get it more incongruent, but
but
what
also balance.
allow. Yeah.
Coming in, going out. Yeah, it's fascinating. We're doing three of us from my team are doing a talk about a healthy approach to death, and there are people doing a lot of other things around death. And I think that this is the theme right now is people trying to either avoid death. I mean, like we've just spoken earlier on, we still have things to do. We don't want to die just yet, but also to try and control it and take like I am going to go when I'm ready to go kind of thing
And
the
you
the
can't
the
do that.
suicide pacts and the
Well,
assisted.
you can do that. No, you can do that. I'm full on for euthanasia.
Yeah, but there's a lot of talk about it that
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
this is why it's coming up now, I think.
I
It's very
agree.
Pluto, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and it's someone's life, it's someone's opportunity. You own your life. Why shouldn't you be allowed to take it? I've always felt like that. But can I just say that
Mm.
with regards Christianity, that actually the religion itself, if you look into it, is based on a lot of wisdom. It's the
Mm,
interpretation of that wisdom, which is I have a problem with.
mm.
And that I make that really, really clear. And I'm not saying that all Christians are bad or anything like that. It's literally being used to strip people and disenchant people of their power. And that's what I have a problem with. That.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And it's all there in the astrology. It's there. This is the time for looking at all of that and questioning it all. And that is why, in a way, people are confused because things they've relied on as the pillars of their lives. A lot of people who are religious do hang on to that as their kind of grounding instead of grounding themselves to the earth themselves
Well,
through
yeah, and
themselves.
recognizing the earth is a greater thing to worship, as are the heavens above, than, as they are themselves. It's again, it's about self-value. If
Mm,
you really want to fall in love with yourself, and you should do that, it's your responsibility to love yourself first, then you basically got to look inside yourself for these things as opposed to trying to outsource them, because that just is constantly giving your power away. It's like, you give
yeah.
everything about you away. You're saying that you're not an authority, something else. And people say, well, I'm not good enough to imagine that I'm God. It's like, well, what is that saying about you? Why aren't you good enough to imagine that you're God? We're all God. We all have that. We're gods to ourselves, not other people, just
Mm,
ourselves.
mm.
Yeah. It's really complex and complicated. And I don't know if, by the way, the Pope or the Queen died on the days that they claim they died on. So I just want to.
Well, we don't know anything for sure because we were not there.
Well, that's it. And I think that sometimes they
So,
choose dates to announce things because they, again, are probably reading the auspices because they've got all this access to this knowledge that went underground, which is now coming back more into
mm,
mainstream. So they
mm.
will pick what are the most influential times for knowledge to be released in a way, again, as a control measure. Did I talk last time about the Book of Wisdom by Harry B. Joseph? I have got
You did. I seem to have written that down somewhere.
these
But
books.
say it again anyway.
This is the Book of Wisdom 2. This is Book of Wisdom 2, and this is Book of Wisdom 1. This is by Harry B. Joseph, and this explains quite clearly, almost in a ladybird fashion, how basically it all works. And how the fact that in the brain we have the thalamus, or the thymus, we have the pituitary gland, and we have pineal gland. The pineal gland releases melatonin, the pituitary gland releases serotonin, and the thymus releases dopamine. Those three magnificent hormones coming together as an elixir then take 33 days to make it down from the brain, the life cycle of Christ, the Christ oil, the pure oil. They stay in the sacral chakra for 3 days, so in the dark cave for 3 days before they rise again, bringing heaven on earth, which is going back up to the brain. The brain, the cadus, everything, it's all completely understandable. It's like a kind of, it's the stuff I live for. It's
Hmm.
the explanation of kind of what we're doing here, the signs, the fact 12 different arteries meet in the brain, uh
12 meridians.
12 zodiacs, 12 months. So it's all very kind of, makes sense. It's beautiful. Absolutely. Incarnation, Saturn symbolism, black cube of Saturn.
But aren't there in fact 13?
Well, some years we have 13 moons, some years we don't.
Mm, yeah,
And it's difficult to tell because if we stuck with 12, because when I was producing my calendar, I was like, what do I do? Do I do it in 13? And then I looked up how many full moons there were, and there was only 12. And I was like, that's really interesting because
that is
there were
interesting.
13. And it's like, the Gregorian calendar is messed around with time so much that it's difficult to tell what is going on. The best way to tell what's going on is to literally follow the sun. So follow
Yes.
the wheel of the year and notice where the sun is. So when spring equinox happens and autumn equinox happens and summer solstice happens and winter solstice happens and also the ones in between, you've got exact points of where the season and the time actually is. So Easter was the 21st of March, spring equinox, when everything is in balance and everything starts to wake up. And yes, since then we've had much better weather. Spring has really erupted, yet we only opened Easter eggs on Monday. So, it's so far out. It's like a month.
Mm.
And that's really interesting because then again, it's like jarring people. It's like, we're
Yeah.
a gap out of time. Now, that increment may have taken 2,000 years to build up to a month. Probably has.
It may. Well, this is the thing. People feel this unsettled feeling somewhere deep in the back of their mind or their instinct or their subconscious or stuff, and they don't understand why they feel unsettled. But there's that playing into to everything altogether. Absolutely.
Yeah, mess
Yeah.
with time, mess with the mind. It's like this bloody
Mm.
British standard saving time. Fight
Oh,
with my
changes
husband
to
about
that.
it. I said, I don't want it anymore. I hate it. It dysregulates the cats, dysregulates the children, it dysregulates me. And he said, oh, but it's for the farmers. I said, well, we don't have really many of those left, so that's now irrelevant. And
Mm.
he said, there's 70 countries. He said, no, all the countries in the world do it. And I was like, no, they don't. And having the kind of relationship that we have, we then had to go on the internet while my son was chirping up in the background, going, there is, oh, what did he say? There was 167 countries or 267 countries in the world. He knew exactly how many there were. And if I think it is about 267, because 70 landed up being around about a third. I said, so it's only affecting a third. And they're probably the ones that were formerly colonies. So
Yes. Yes.
basically the rest of the world is kind of like not messing with it, so forget it. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's quite interesting.
Well, the Maldives is an ex-colony and they don't do it. They've
Oh.
given it up.
Well, yeah, because what is the point? You're
Well,
still
they don't have farming.
doing
They have fishing, but they don't have farming.
well,
But yeah, it's fascinating, and that's what I understood. It started in the war, actually, the Second World War. That was when they started doing it, so they could have extra daylight, so they could do their farming in the daylight without having to have lights on, which would attract the bombs. That was the reason.
yeah, I mean it's got good provenance, but
Yeah, it
you know,
made sense then,
kind
but it's we're
just
not in those
get
times.
rid of it. Yes, because it just screws everybody around. No
Yeah.
one really knows what they're doing, and it's a further discombobulation and
Mm,
disconnection with us, with Earth,
mm,
the ultimate like elemental. Whenever I open a circle, it's Earth. Earth is who we worship. We're here on
yeah.
Earth. She's gifting us life. We need
Yes.
to understand that, appreciate that.
People look horrified at me when I say that the earth is shifting around, and that is why we're getting earth. People don't really get it. They don't
But
feel
you
like we're on a living, moving thing, and I say about the North Pole has shifted. I suppose the South Pole has also shifted. I have no idea, but
well,
it's
they're correct.
definitely in a different place on my compass.
Well, yeah. And
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Are you a flat earther?
No.
Neither am I.
I
Let's
can't
clear that up.
get my head around it. I'm interested in hearing about it.
It's
I'm
probably got a
curious to
chapter in here.
understand how they think about it because it's totally weird to me. But yeah.
He's saying it can't. It's like it's a Taurus of kind of, no, it can't be. It may not be in completely, yeah, everything is. It has to
Mm,
be. Everything in nature is round. It's like an electromagnetic thing, an atom. It's round. It's like a disc.
mm,
Anyway,
mm,
I think
mm.
on that note, my friend, I think we've given people more than enough to think about
Full
this week. Oh
circle.
God, we didn't even talk about the new moon, which is coming in. It's the whole reason why we get here, but we got so carried away with our little rabbit holes that we forgot to do that. Talking about rabbit holes,
How are we doing for time? Oh gosh, we're okay. We're okay. We're only
well,
45 minutes. That's enough.
oh God, yeah. I'm just gonna say the new moon is in Taurus, and that is on Sunday.
Mm,
So this is a new willow moon in Taurus. So willow is all about releasing emotions and basically emotional resilience and alignment. And with it being in Taurus, there's a kind of, there's a real earthing. So there's kind of, bringing your emotions down into your body, letting them seep through your body. Perhaps this is going to be a month of looking after your body by recognizing that your emotions, trapped emotions, are not making your body happy.
mm,
Taurus is also ruled by Venus, which is about self-worth. So there's an aspect of that. There's an aspect of home, finances, all that kind of stuff. So
Mm.
just remember to do your full moon rituals, please, which is on Sunday. And
New moon ritual. New.
new moon. Did I just say full moon?
You did actually.
Quick.
It'll still be Willow when we get to the full moon, so we can
We'll do it again,
do
but
it
yeah,
again.
I'll repeat that sentence when we
And
get
I'll talk about willow flower essence next time.
fabulous. All right, lots of
Okay.
love, everybody.
All right. Love you. Bye bye.